Hector, Ivan Pivovarenko.
Fine, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
So I'm representing the youth of the world at the World Gas Conference, and I'd like to ask you a number of questions. The first question is, what is your vision of the industry over the next 25 years?
I do think that the gas industry for the next 30, 50 years is going to grow immensely. Right now, it's forecasted that there's going to be an average growth by year 2035 of 50%. There's regions in the world that are going to grow much more than that, like in Asia, 150%. So I do think there's going to be a lot of investment to be able to keep up with that market. I think an example of the demand that occurs has to do with our company, with Chevron. We have big projects in Australia, LNG projects, Gorgon and Wheatstone, and they're already underpinned by 70% of the volume, so that means there's a lot of demand in Asia.
And do you ever anticipate that with all these projects coming online, there could be potentially a situation where we'll have oversupply of gas over the next, say, 20 years?
I really doubt that. We're seeing economies that are growing at fast paces, 9–10%, and that will continue, and that's foreseen to continue like that. As the middle class continues to grow, the demand of energy is going to demand as well. So I do think that the gas, in particular, natural gas, is going to play an important role in meeting that demand.
Of course. However, with the new technologies that are coming online, for example, coal seam gas or methane, I think it's fracking, do you anticipate that potentially with the events in the US indicating that prices tend to fall with the innovation in the gas industry, that could potentially inhibit the growth of the industry?
I don't think so. The case in the United States is a very particular case. To be able to make an impact on the gas market, there needs to be certain conditions that need to be met. There needs to be infrastructure, there needs to be a clear regulatory environment that allows gas to flow, and both of those occur in the U.S. And there is enough equipment to be able to do the drilling. So I think in the U.S. it has been shown that it can be done. Now the question is, can it be done in other places of the world? And certainly it can. First of all, there needs to be the rocks. That's the basis, and we've seen that there are a lot of formations around the world that have those conditions. Now, with clear regulatory environments, clear governmental support, investment in infrastructure, and open markets, certainly those would be a success too.
So with the open market, prices are likely to fall like they did in the US. Do you anticipate that could occur in Europe and other regions if we deregulate the market pricing mechanisms?
Well, I think the market regulates by itself. I don't think it needs to be regulated to be free. I think the market by itself, its market forces, will take the price to the levels that it should be in the market. Most of the contracts around the world are oil linked. In the U.S., that does not occur. Gas is not linked to oil due to the amount of trading that occurs and the free market that occurs. Now, the price of gas in the U.S. has certainly brought more infrastructure, has created a lot of jobs, and has strengthened a lot of the industries. A lot of the chemical industries now have feedstocks, affordable feedstocks that can take products all around the world in a cheaper manner. So I do think it's going to continue. It has impacted the U.S. and hopefully it will do in other countries.
And would you say that the disparity between the pricing in the United States and other parts of the world is a challenge for the industry?
In the U.S., certainly yes. The market has really reacted favorably to the surplus of gas. I don't know exactly what the price is today, but it's probably a little bit over $2 per million BTUs, and it's very close to break even. It'll be a challenge for some producers to be able to meet those prices, to be able to extract the gas. But I think that with time it'll go up a little bit, and it's going to make it possible to continue to invest. The market has not slowed, the producers have not slowed, and they continue to invest in producing shale gas.
Interesting point that you mentioned that you have two major projects in Australia. From my information, there's a lot of cost pressures in Australia, namely with labour and the constraints related to skilled labour. Do you think that will impede your development in that region?
Well, the company is working very much in tandem with the government and close to the government and developing the resources. We have the resources working in Gorgon. Will eventually move to work on the Wheatstone project, and then further on go back to the other future expansions. So we do intend to keep the workforce, and as I said, we're working close to the government to develop a local Australian workforce that are going to be able to maintain those projects in the future.
Do you think it's possible to use a global workforce, for example, take workers from the States to have them work in Australia, or would there be too much political opposition?
Well, I don't think it's going to be too much opposition around it. I think that government's domestic labor is a very key issue when they develop projects. If you have resources in your own country, you would like to use your own resources, and it's very understandable. You know, it's a wealth for the people of the country. It creates jobs for people in the country, and I think they should take advantage of it. Now, having said that, it's clear that the amount of projects in the world right now would require an international and mobile workforce, and that's occurring now. You see employees from various nationalities going to different parts of the world, and that will continue to do so. But as long as when the local content of those projects progress and get trained, certainly it should be up to them to keep it up and running.
I guess another question from a different topic would be around what the youth of today perceive the industry as. And in my film that I've produced to attend this conference, I have gauged that there's a lot of negative perception about oil and gas in the community. What has the industry done to correct that perception?
Well, communication. I think a lot of what's out there in the news is not completely reveals the whole story. There's some misinformation, and I do think it's our responsibility to be open and transparent and communicate the realities of the industry. So that helps a lot. Being condescending with the people and talking about it. I think we agree. I, as a parent, and my son, I certainly will agree that we should be doing this in a very responsible, environmentally safe way. I want to leave them a world that is good for them as it is good for me. And I'm proud to say that for our company, that's part of our values. That's why I work there. And I feel good within myself that I'm going to be able to tell my kids exactly the same thing. I think we need to inform, I need to educate, I need to be open and transparent, have the flow of information going back and forth, and have a constructive dialogue.
Okay. One other question that I had for you was around the perceptions of youth of oil companies, namely Chevron or Shell or the oil majors. And some young people perceive these companies to be fairly hierarchical and bureaucratic. Do you still think that perception holds today, and would it prevent them from advancing in their careers?
Well, I think that companies have adapted substantially, very much. The company that I work in today is very different than the company I was hired into. I think companies like ours have evolved. I can speak for Chevron, and I find Chevron's environment very open, and for people to move up within the corporation. It's a consensus-reaching organization, so there's always dialogue. The processes that they have in place give opportunities to people to move up if they're willing to do so. So they empower you to make your own career. In previous companies, in the old days, that was not possible. That was very hierarchical, and probably you would have to be sitting there waiting until someone decided to give you an opportunity. Well, that doesn't occur anymore. You know, now things have changed immensely with the social media, the X, Y, and Z networks. We need to adapt, and we need to give opportunities to people that can really take this industry in the future. This industry is here to stay, and certainly it will adapt to the new ways of thinking, and I think that's important.
And do you think there is a barrier for young people who are dealing with more experienced and aging workforce?
No, what I found in our company is that there has been a lot of collaboration. In fact, we that are older in the industry have become really resources for those people to understand, to learn the business, to give them guidance, to be mentors, and I think that's our role. I think we, besides our leadership roles, our major role is to be mentors of this new young generation. The generation gap is there. The boomers are moving out. We're going out pretty soon out of the business, and there needs to be a young workforce that takes this over. And I'm glad to report that there is. You know, we have in Chevron so many young people coming in every day, which with time have been able to realize that these companies are solid companies. It's companies that are good to work for. It's family that will allow you to grow personally, and so they like it, you know, and that breaks a little bit with the perception that you mentioned at the beginning.
All right. Well, one other question that I've had for you is on a related topic to youth working in the industry.
Sure.
From my perception, back in your days when the oil and gas was booming, there was a lot of opportunities for young people to travel and internationally and get international experience in both downstream, midstream, and upstream. Mm-hmm. Do you still think that in the post-global financial crisis environment, those opportunities still exist? And if not, do you expect it to change back to the medium? No,
I think it exists. I definitely think it exists. The economic crisis, well, let me start by saying that this business is a long-term business, right? So economic crisis, you'll see many of those come and go within the time frame that we work. One of the key things that is required now is that the world has become global. And for a leader to be an important leader in one of these companies, he needs to be mobile. He needs to be able to relate with people in Africa, in Latin America, in Eurasia, in the United States, in Europe, and be able to work as one person. So we expect from our leaders to be able to do that and be mobile enough and understand and diverse to be able to do that. That's one of our values.
You mentioned quite a global scenario where you have relationships with many different people from many different countries. Do you still think that knowing foreign languages is a real advantage, or is English something that will get you by?
No, I wish I could. I'm bilingual. I'm a Spanish and English fluent speaker, and I really wish I would know more languages. I think that's an advantage. Being able to communicate in the local language is key, and I think you need to know more than one.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It was very useful talking to you.
It's a pleasure.